Hello, there's me. Peace. Pillar Falls. There's the pillars. There's the falls. That's just a little piece of it. It's quite a few acres of just rock formations and drops in elevation. And the water from the Snake River comes from Shoshone Falls, which is about 2 miles, maybe a mile and a half further up. And at high water, it will go over. So this whole thing will be just roaring with white water. You can see some of the wear on the rocks over the years. And it goes over and under, I guess, this whole landscape. So it's quite a unique place, a dangerous place if you're not careful. But I grew up above this area up on the canyon rim. Can't really see my house, but on the other side of the furthest knoll out there is where my house was. And we would come down here when I was 7 and up. That's when we moved here with my dad, my little brother, or my big brother, sorry, and I and my mom married Hutch, and we moved here. And we would never see a kayak coming this way. We would be here all by ourselves, and my brother would fish. So one day, I think I told you about this already, there's a freshwater pond up there somewhere. My brother and my dad were knee deep in the silt, and they were digging down and pulling up clams and opening them up and eating the oysters straight from the clams, which to this day is the weirdest but coolest thing in the world. And my dad and my brother actually had a pearl in his oyster right here in Idaho, a pearl. So I call that the canyon pearl, and I have been thinking what a metaphor that is. This pearl that was found in the weirdest, most unexpected place, formed by hardship. So the canyon's kind of a place like that for me. Anyway, so grew up there, started telling you about numbers, and as a trauma therapist, how I started to rely on numbers when I learned EMDR, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing technique. Part of the therapy is to identify a traumatic memory, to think about it, and to identify how you feel in your body, what the distress level is between 1 and 10, 1 being very, very minimal distress, where 10, if this could be an old memory or a recent memory, but a 10 is where the distress that it causes you in your body is almost more than you can stand. And I think a lot of us have been there. I've been there. And what it looks like to me, it's like a trial by fire, but on paper or to the observer, it might not have been that big of a deal to hear about my distress. But that's what trauma is. It's in the eye of the traumatized, or the body of the traumatized. It is a body thing. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about my trauma, because it's actually a really cool love trauma story, and it has a great ending. I'm giving you that away right now. I wouldn't want to re-traumatize anybody that's been through what I've been through. As a school counselor, I work with children that come from poverty schools, and back when I first started, for the first few years, I would do what I called a matter meter with some kids. I would just ask them to kind of take inventory about how they felt by saying, you know, how much do you feel like you matter right now? And of course I'd let them know that they mattered to me, and they really did matter, but what did they feel? That's how I could get them to take inventory. And anywhere between a 1 and a 3 was probably a sign of distress. Uh, 7 and 10 means they're okay. They feel connected, attached, like they're getting by great with their relationships. People are treating them right. So the children that were below 5, I would often not identify them by pointing them out, but just maybe by a count in a class and ask the classroom, okay guys, you see some of your friends are not doing too well today. What can we do to make sure they feel like they matter? And one day, a boy, a 5th grade boy, who actually was struggling academically because he was struggling with maybe some trauma at home and some attention issues, severe attention issues and organizational issues. Well, he raised his hand and he answered that question. What can I do to help my classmates feel like they matter? He said, basically, give them the reins. Let them be the leader in the friendship. Let them decide where to sit. Let them decide what game we're going to play today. So he did. He identified just self-determination and also, leadership as a factor in feeling like you matter. And I thought, wow, that's probably one of the best answers I ever got in those years that I did that. Well, so I grew up and I realized now, but it wasn't true, but I grew up probably dwelling between a 3 and a 5 on the matter meter. And I can't really tell you why. I did come from a broken home. I did move. I probably have some developmental delays, socially, I don't know, just trying to fit in. I've always done better alone, I guess. But I just, I felt like I didn't matter. And I remember telling my mom once in junior high when I was a little older and I could start thinking about these kind of things and thinking abstractly. I remember telling her, Mom, I think God punishes me. And I don't know why I thought that. It was just intrinsically built into my life. I was going to suffer. Something was wrong with me. And my mom was shocked. And her answer, of course, was denying that. But I remember I don't remember her words, but I remember that reframe, the reaction of my mom was, okay, and I think you've been getting it wrong so I kind of rethought that God doesn't want us to suffer, and the truth that I understand is that He wants us to have joy. So, but I still, even to this day, if my default is probably about a 3 or a 5 on the matter meter, but I know how to fix that. I know how to get right again. But when I was 18, I fell in love, and I became, I guess I felt like I mattered suddenly. This guy was 21, straight out of the Navy, my best friend's older brother. I was right out of high school, and she kind of set us up. He let her know he wanted to spend time with me before he even got home for good. So in August of 1984, we had our first date, August 2nd, and we can't even remember what we did, but it was kind of a hangout date. It was drive around town, talk, eat, and we ended up at Shoshone Falls Park, that's about 2 miles away from here, up the river, and we were up at a little pull-out where you could park and just listen to the falls way up above it. The stars were out. It was probably after midnight. He had already kissed me. And this was different. This was not awkward. This was not my normal, but it was so natural. And something magical was happening between he and I. So his name was Kevin. He was 6'2", straight out of the Navy. I didn't know it at the time, but he had been accepted to Navy SEAL training. Muscly, freckly, strawberry blonde, and oh man, beautiful. And he wanted me. So he'd already kissed me in the car, just briefly. Stopped at an intersection in the country on the way down to the falls and said, he's going to wait for the next car, which was about a half a mile away. And he just gave me a kiss, quick one, right there in the car. Probably the first time I've ever been really kissed that I kissed back. I felt like a partner versus, I don't know, like an experiment. So here we are at midnight, standing, facing each other, arm in arm. You know, the sky is just lit, literally lit with the moon and the stars and the sound of the waterfall, big thundering waterfall behind us. I look at him and suddenly I am feeling a 10. And I said to him, you know what, I think I like you. And that was not my normal either. Someone who dwells in the 3s and the 5s isn't usually given to vulnerable self-disclosure so quickly. So things were changing. And he said, you know I like you. This 6'2" Navy, Irish looking redneck liked me. And if if I could break the matter meter, I would probably say I was more like 100 right then. Anyway, he said he liked me, and he said, "You want to know why?" Of course, I wanted to know why. He said, "Because I have butterflies in my tummy." So that's my start with my Kevin, and he has been the love of my life, and he has been the storm of my life. He has been a reason that my distress went to a 10. So I know what a 10 is. You know, speaking as a trauma therapist, I know what it feels like. I've talked clients through it before, but there I was. This was not too long ago. But I'll tell you more, and I promise, believe me, this is a happy ending. I have learned that men are, because God does love them, and we do matter to Him, and we were created to know joy. So we'll talk later. My story will continue. Okay. Just one quick look at the sunset. And there's my vessel. Moony out.